I am actually super excited because, I am now talking to my coach's coach. Finally, I'm not gonna get the watered down version of real coaching. I'm gonna get the. I'm super excited to to listen to you, Kim.
Yeah,
I'm so
he's a
excited
mean.
here.
I like that. I like that. Hi, everyone. It's Benoy and Ike. Welcome to Fearless Founders. We're excited, especially since my coach is on our show today, Kim Giles. We're very excited about this today. For we don't have the time today, but the 1 hour or less that we've got, she has so much wisdom, especially as you're looking at growing your business and you're the first time founder. Man, if I hadn't had the help that Kim had provided me, I wouldn't be able to do any justice to the work that I was doing as a coach. So she's the coach of coaches. So we're excited to have Kim here today. And we got lots of stories and we got to get going. But Kim is a great friend of mine and now a friend of Ike. And she's the president and founder of Clarity Point Coaching and 12 Shapes. She has, I don't know, influenced so many hundreds of thousands of people. And I know that count because she's been coaching for over 20 years and she's always creating great, insightful content. She has multiple books. And today we're lucky. We're lucky to have Kim on our show and we can't wait to dive in. Ike, any comments?
I am actually super excited because, I am now talking to my coach's coach. Finally, I'm not gonna get the watered down version of real coaching. I'm gonna get the. I'm super excited to listen to you, Kim.
I'm
Yeah,
so
he's a
excited
mean.
here.
I like that. I like that. Kim, how did you start off? How did you get into this world? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
How did I get into coaching or human behavior? Or
Well, yeah, as the expert on human behavior, and there are a lot of humans around us mucking up work,
I
business would
know.
be easy. Yeah.
Well, life would be easy. Life would be
Yes.
easy, except for that we have. I mean, I always say life is a classroom, and we're here to learn, and people are really the classroom. It would be easy
Mhm.
if it wasn't for all the dynamics with each other. And I think it was years and years of struggles in my own life and relationships that got me so interested in understanding people and what makes us tick, what makes us behave the way we do and perform the way we do, and how to improve that. I don't know if you even knew when I first started coaching, I was a sales coach. I was
Wow.
Augmendino greatest salesman in the world coach.
Oh
Wow.
my,
Yeah, I was
really?
coaching salespeople, and um, a lot of the same techniques that I was teaching to help people in sales and interactions with others and handling conflicts and issues in sales ended up transferring over to just every part of their life. And as you guys know, we may get in to coach someone in a business setting, but their personal life and all their relationships quickly become part of the equation to get balance and have their life going well and feel good about themselves and their life. We have to
I have
approach
to
all the
say,
relationships.
I have to say, when Bina was coaching me, I refused that for months, maybe years. Like I kept saying Binoy incorrectly. No, no, I have different lives and I can separate in my brain and all that. Uh, I, yes, now I know better, but I think that there's probably other first time founders like I had at the time that is not believing that.
Yeah.
It's
But it
it's a
was,
valid
well,
point.
It is. They're tied together. Absolutely.
You cannot. So tell me, real fast, in this journey, you've had enough individuals, couples, partners, business executives, and whatever. And we have a lot of um, 20, 30, 40, 50 year olds who are starting their business for the first time. They may have already had a level of sufficient success. They're always under the gun. They got a lot of pressure on them, and the need to perform is huge. With all of that said, because there's so much to cover, can you think of two things? Just two things you'd advise. What have you learned that you would recommend that these mostly men, some ladies,
Yeah.
consider in this professional conduct because it's stressful?
Well, and it's funny because most of my work has been around fear. And most of the time when I start working with the CEO, they tell me I'm not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid of anything. But if you're stressed and you're experiencing anxiety at all on any level, that's fear. I hate to tell you. Fear is the biggest problem that's holding us back at home and work and causing issues in relationships. It almost always comes down to our fears. So I spend a lot of time with clients right off the bat identifying what their core fear is, what they get triggered by, what throws them out of balance. And those are the things that are slowing you down. They're the things that are causing conflict in relationships. And it's so simple. Once you kind of know what fear is in play for you, you're smiling because you teach this because it's what I taught you. But it's the key. And it's really so simple. Now, it's not always easy because a lot of these fears are really ingrained in us. The two fears that show up for all of us are a fear of failure and a fear of loss. And you've been dealing with these your whole life, and they are terrifying. The idea of failing, especially when you have a lot of responsibility, you're the founder of a business, you've got a lot of people depending on you and your family and money, and failure becomes more and more terrifying, right? So the amount of anxiety and fear in play can be pretty big.
It comes so fast. Just today, this morning, I had to text Angela and say, I'm so sorry. I love you. I know you'll do great in this new business of yours. Don't mind me and my fears, right? It just comes up. And you're worried
Yeah.
about payroll. You're worried about payroll. You're worried about making sure your dream can come through. You're making sure that I am not viewed as a failure. Ike, come on. Tell me some of the worries that you had when you started off, right?
I mean, it's it's crazy. Like I've seen um, some people who their business failed, and they went into huge black hole they couldn't get out for years. I think that person was like 7 years, and at some point they even became a homeless because just like the burden was so much. And when I saw those, and then during my business tenure, there's the weight of the family. You want to provide for your family. I am the provider kind. And then you have the employees that are looking up to you because I left the engineering 9 to 5 job because I said I don't like that CEO making decisions about my life. I'm going to make the decisions about my life. That's the whole thing that's got me started. And now I'm in the position I'm making decisions for everybody's life that I'm employed 150, 170 people, right? um, and then everything is fine. We're bootstrapped. Oh no, that wasn't enough. I brought the VCs in so that I have new boss that I have to grow the company. If we're growing 25%, it's horrible. Why isn't it 50%? I have to respond to them, and I'm driving the business. Fear, 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 everywhere. It's the burden of those weighs you down. And you guys have your own stories, probably. That was mine.
It's true.
And did all of that pressure make you easily triggered at home? Did you see you were bringing some of
That's an
that home?
understatement. That's an understatement. Easy to trigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Which
and
is
that's
why
why
we
I yeah, we have to. And for our viewers and listeners, this is not a siloed approach to compartmentalizing our life as founders, as husbands, as boyfriends, as whatever. We have to take the whole 360 view. And Kim, you know that better than anybody else. In terms of fear being the main element that holds us back, what other input or direction or stories that you've seen that would help our listeners understand how to approach this? How can they become aware? How can they become that much better in this journey? Otherwise, than white knuckling it all the way through.
well, getting a coach on the outside, I think, is critical because you can't see what you can't see. And you and I know as coaches, we can be so good at seeing what's out of balance with other people. We still can't see it in ourselves. We still need someone outside. It's so invaluable. You, there's no way you're performing at the place you could be if you're doing it all on your own and you don't have support. You don't have somebody that can look at what's happening and give you input. So, absolutely, if you don't have that kind of support, you deserve it. You need it. It's going to make things easier and faster. It'll save you so much headache, stress, time figuring it out on your own than having somebody from the outside be able to help you. So, I think that's a huge one. Um, I don't know, Benoy, are you thinking about tools or give me like some more specific problem where that we want to solve and
Yeah, yeah. Let me piggyback on that last comment, not because it's self-serving, but lately I've been talking to a lot of venture capital people, and one particular reply via LinkedIn said, we only invest at rounds 4 and 5. So we're talking, D's and E rounds, very much more mature companies. And this is what the partner said. He said, we at this stage have found that many of our CEOs have already benefited from a coach, and almost like it's the sequence of success that allows them to get to those successive rounds of funding. And
right,
then I read recently that of the top Fortune 500 companies, almost all of the CEOs, up to 85%, have had coaches help them along their journey. And I couldn't agree with you more. I don't know what life would be like, and yet at the same time, the fear holds the founder back. I got to prove it. I got to do it by myself. I can't ask for help. That means I appear weak, right? Right? It's like
Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I can't I can't ask the venture capital investor to say, hey, can I budget? Can I get a budget for a coach? That would just mean that I'm not capable. Ike, what do you think?
The book opened my mind was Billion Dollar Coach. It's the coach for the Google founders, and the coach not only coached the two founders but the entire executive team. It's like, hey, like, founders, we are not saying just you have the fears. Everybody has fears, and then everybody needs coaching. Like even the CFO that your
Yeah,
VC brought in to help you
mm,
may need a coach.
it's true. It's a true statement. Kim, in our world here, we have super high expectations that every dollar goes in, 10 comes back. Imagine that. and probably within a 3 to 5 year window. It's an unnatural level of pressure, right? It's almost like it's hard enough to start a business from scratch. It's almost much harder after you take investment money in, because now you've got enough humans to be responsible for, a brand new set of new humans on top who are investors and board members, and a huge need to grow with customers and partners and everything else. It's a stress case times 10. The tension is unbearable. And hence why I've been able to help so many, because I went through that and said, wow, this is a big need. We got to help everybody out. And you know as well that nothing allows you to succeed better or perform worse than how things are back at home, right? I mean, you can
Yeah,
only
we
be
had all
coherent.
that.
Yeah, right. And so
Yeah.
you've also talked to many a couple and an ongoing sort of a sequence. What have you learned about how, even at home, first time founders, what could they do? How could they manage that portion in order to even advance and be wholly balanced and functional at work?
Well, we're talking about basically improving that relationship at home, right? So that
Yeah.
we've got some peace knowing things are good there. And you want to improve any relationship with another human being. The first step is understanding them, understanding what's actually going on with them, and the conflicts that we have with other humans are always at their core based in differences. I've spent most of the last 30 years studying the science of axiology, which is the science of how humans value everything in our world, and our differences in how we value things and the differences in our fears are the core causes of all of the conflict. So I want to have you get to know your partner at a different level where you understand their core values and what's driving most of their behaviors and what also triggers them, what their core needs are. And these things can be super easy and fast to identify in each other. And then I'm going to teach you how to work things out when these differences create conflict so that you know how to listen and understand them and make them feel validated and heard so things don't blow up. And teaching those basic relationship skills is such a game changer and it changes things so fast. And I don't know how much you want to let me get into the 12 shapes, but it's
Go,
the
go, go, go.
easiest
Go for it. Yeah, I
way I
go.
have found to just understand another person because immediately you know what their core value system is and what yours is and what the differences are going to be. So, for example, I have a CEO that I've been working with who's a rhombus, who's married to a diamond. And one of the key differences is diamonds overvalue organization and having everything exactly where they want it to be and how they want it to be and clean. And they need things this way. And it matters so much that they have a schedule and a plan and their life is organized. And he is just focused on winning and surviving and being successful at work. And those things are way undervalued, along with connection with his spouse becomes undervalued. And as soon as we recognize those differences in value, it's a totally different conversation with between the two of them now. Because she can say, I know this is a diamond thing. I know I'm not criticizing you, but I just need your clothes put away. I know it matters to me more than it matters to you, and I get that. And it's not her picking at him or nagging at him anymore because she can own that this is an overvaluing for her. And he can say, I know I undervalue that, and that's an issue with me. but I know it's important to you. We can honor and allow each other to have these differences and be different from each other at a different level when we understand what they are. And what I find if we don't is we're just always bothered that people aren't like us. We tend to think the way we're wired, the way we value things, the way we function in the world is the right way. What's wrong with them that they're doing it wrong? And as long as that's kind of the energy in the relationship, is where we're irritated about all those things the person doesn't value that we value or doesn't do the way we do, we're just going to have conflict all the time. So, looking for a quick fix, have everybody take the shapes quiz, 12shapes.com. Find out your shapes so that you get each other's value system difference. I mean, Benoy, it's been super fun to watch you and your wife discover these differences because you're the one that's probably a little more picky about some things than your wife is.
Oh, just a little. Oh, yeah.
It
It,
helps.
it, it helps so much, right? I go, oh, I'm doing it again. It's just, my way isn't the right way. I think it is, but it isn't. I keep thinking it is. And then I go
Differently.
back and go, it's different. It's just different. And it's a beautiful thing. And not only is that important at home and the kids and relationships, but imagine we did this. Imagine then if we had that same level of understanding between the CEO and the CTO, the CEO and the CFO and the
Mhm.
CRO, or in between them too, so that people are fully aware of, oh, we're just different versus he's not doing this, it's bothering me, right? And Kim's laughing because it shows up everywhere at home most, and we all get it. We can relate to that, but at work it's just the same. It's the same thing, right? We don't
Absolutely
spend enough
same.
time. Right, right. You know
I
exactly.
remember reading the book, and one of the implementations was how to create a sales team, and that's how I applied it anyway. It's like in a sales team, like you can't have everybody relationship person. You can please remind me the shapes for these, like relationship building. Sometimes you need a different shape that will get out of my way. I'm the bull, and I'm gonna close that deal and forget the relationships. So like I start paying attention when I'm forming a sales team to attack a market. Like, don't hire everybody the same shapes. That doesn't make sense. They might work well together with each other. Like, hey, high five! We're the greatest team together. But no, to execute better, to perform better, you need different shapes. It's like a chessboard. You need different functions to attack and defend, right? So, like, Kim, tell us about that. Like, how do you apply this to these shapes to maybe company dynamics that our first time founders might find it useful?
Yeah. Um, so I have many companies. They won't hire, they won't promote or move people around until they know their shapes and they're keeping this in mind because the balance on the team is important. But also, you can have a team that has so many of this type of person, and you bring in the wrong type of person, and it's going to upset the the balance. And so
Mhm.
it's just so critical to understand them. But where you were going, Ike, that I really want to go is we as human beings really are programmed for judgment. And so we see any two people and we're looking at better or worse, who's right or who's wrong. We're so quick to go to judgment. And what we lose is that there is a place for everybody and they bring something different that others don't bring. And we need them all. We really do need them all. But the most important, or I say that the key foundational principle is that all of us have the same value. And just because you're different and you value different things than another person doesn't make you better, doesn't make, but you might be better for a certain role. But we can't get the I'm going to talk down to you because you don't value what I value or you do things different than I do. And this is especially important at home because we easily talk down to people we think are wrong at home. Sometimes at work, we're a little more on guard about it, but sometimes not. I've had CEOs that have had a real problem in their business because they talk down to everybody and make everybody feel less than. And it, the turnover has been unbelievable. And there's been a huge cost in that business because of not being able to see the value of differences, both at home and work. I've got a CEO right now, and the CEO is a rhombus, Benoy, so he's hard driving and just competitive and but not as empathetic. And his CFO is a heart. So there is dramatically different as we could get. This heart is all about people and connection and caring and visiting and listening and having empathy. And Rhombus doesn't have any of that. Doesn't spend any time there. But he's been able to learn that there's some real benefits of having somebody that's a balance to him because he doesn't show up on the empathy scale at all. And there's some times the employees need someone who actually has it in it to him to listen, and it's not going to be him. So now that he understands the superpower they each bring, he's been able to harness them in a different way and really appreciate the strengths that the heart brings instead of being irritated all the time that he spends so much time talking. We actually need some people who are good at talking to others
Oh yeah,
when you're
yeah,
just a drive person.
right.
Yeah, we need
As yeah, as one of the brutal drive operators, um, I, I truly understand and feel the need, especially when you're starting a business from scratch, that everything is all depending on your shoulders, and it just causes a lot of unnatural behavior. I call it unnatural because you're going to demean and devalue relationships because for me, it was a task at hand. Go there, conquer that hill at all costs. Even if that means sometimes you're going to trample over your own employees, soldiers to get up to that. And I was ruthless. And I had one boss one time said, "Congratulations, you were the best presenter. You achieved this goal." And she says, "Did you notice that along the journey, all of your contemporaries started to get quiet? And because you completely dominated the entire floor in order to get to the end goal, and
Mhm.
you everyone was quiet as you kind of like those what's it called, those competitions where you ring the bell at the back, at the end because you got it, and but no one's behind you because you left them all behind, all unhappy, sad. And so it can be a very stressful time, more than it needs to be, because we create the stress. We create
So,
the
Benoit,
stress.
what else I see happening there is your fear was overriding your values because you
Mm,
do value people and relationships and you care about others. But the interesting thing we found years of research, what drives human behavior is our values and our fears. But if you're functioning in fear, that takes over. And your need to protect yourself from failure knocks all your values out of the equation, and you no longer have it in you to care about the people because the fear is just all you can see, and it's driving and pushing you. And that's a real shame when we lose our values because these are deeply held, and I know you and how you care about other human beings. It is a value that you hold, But when you're functioning in fear, those values go out the window.
Yeah,
So
indeed.
is that one of the ways to help first time founders to recognize that they're operating in fear versus going after values? Because I remember Benoy, you and I did a study. I think for a whole week, we, when I say we, you made me discover my own values. And then I started like paying attention. This is like the step one. When I act on something, is it the fear, or am I going after my values? Kim, is that the method, or do you have other tools in your box to use? Like,
That's a huge one, is to recognize when you have an interaction with another person or you make a choice that it's value driven, not fear driven. And you can stop and check yourself. um,
mm-hmm,
Sometimes, like in a personal relationship, just watch that every text message, every phone call, every interaction, that you're being driven by your values, not fear. So we're we show up different. We have to be outside of fear to even access our love for our children and our spouse. When you're functioning in fear, especially fear of loss or failure, you're so worried about you being okay. Your focus becomes completely selfish, and love is out the window. You got nothing to offer anybody. So the first thing we have to do is to teach you how to be responsible for your fear state, and how do you get yourself back in balance where you feel safe in the world from loss and failure, to the point that you can access your values again and you can show up actually as the real you.
This is so important. So important. I just had a dinner here. Kim's in Mexico. I'm in Costa Rica. Ike's in Newport. Um this week, the dinner conversation here was with a very successful CEO, and I said, "So, what have you learned now that the children have been raised and you've achieved a level of financial success? What have you learned that if you were to go back and redo, what would you do differently?" And the commentary, he said, I hadn't thought of it this way. He said, whenever I acted badly, or I didn't spend quality engagements, he said I was protecting my time. It was interesting. Time was how he managed his fear of loss, his ability to make sure things were moving. Time was what he guarded even from his children. Isn't that interesting, right? That was his very insightful. Ike smiling. It was very insightful. I said, I hadn't thought of it that way, but I can see that, right? Uh, I gotta go. I got another meeting, whatever.
yeah,
But then translated back at home is uh, go play with your friends, right?
Yeah,
Gives me
I get
time.
that.
Yeah. And the fact that he said time was what I guarded, which caused me to not have quality relationships with my children, I would redo that. I would re-emphasize that. And I said, wow, that was that was very deep. I like that insight. He had spent some time thinking about it. So in this journey, we all use different ways to reduce our value from being removed from us. And we'll come up with our own ways. I have too many stories to tell you. Oh, by the way, just in case you think it was recent, the story I told you about how I got to the top of the hill, this and that was 35 years ago. Just so you know, it was 35 years ago when I was a little more brash. I'm a little less, but I still have it. Right? It is. This journey is just fascinating. Kim, in the sequence of talking to all of these men versus ladies, I'm gonna bring it up. What do you see the difference in their natural leadership capabilities and styles? because we got a mostly male dominant tech founder audience. We have some female, but not a lot. What do you see as a difference when you have a leader who's female versus male?
It depends on what shape they are, Benoy, because that that drives their behavior more than whether they're male or female. I mean, I've got some hard driving female CEOs, and they're squares, they're octagons often. We don't get as many rhombus females. I think a lot of the CEOs that we probably get are lean towards being rhombuses because they're so driven to be at the top. They're so driven to be at the top, but they severely undervalue connection in relationships, and they usually struggle in that area. Where some of these other shapes, with women leaders, they still struggle with it though. My female CEOs are still struggling to make the time with the families, to have work life balance. On some level, they drive even harder because as a woman, they feel like they have even more to prove, and they got to
Mhm.
work even harder to get the same respect. And so they still struggle with the same issues with balance that I think a lot of the men do.
Yeah, and I'm going to bring this up because Ike knows about this topic. I created a recommendation to all CEOs, founders, to because they'll say, "So what do I do about this? How do I stop myself? How do I not get caught up in it?" And I've called it the 3 second rule, where I just say, just count to 3 seconds. What you're trying to do is slow the brain down from the normal reactions, right?
Mhm.
Just count to three and figure out whether or not you're acting out of an emotion that's not happy. If you're acting out of an emotion of irritation, frustration, anger, disappointment, whatever, if it's not happy, you're probably in a fear state. So before you actually execute on that thought, count to three and test it. Then you can figure out whether or not you want to continue along that line or change it. Ike, what do you think about that strategy? What would you recommend? Because Kim's going to give you lots more, but they want to know. So, how do I catch myself? Never mind, how do I get educated and know my shape? And we definitely want them to take that. What do you recommend?
Yeah, I mean, it reminds me that I think Navy SEALs used, even if they're like they're about to be killed and the bullets are flying, say take 3 breaths and 4 times, and then that's when your mind calms down and you have better perspective. You're not acting out of fear, in other words, and then act.
Box breathing. Correct. Yep,
Hmm.
box breathing. And Kim knows all about that. Our listeners are going to say, okay, so we have these fears. I need to go to 12shapes.com and take my test. And I recommend they also consider their family members do it. I've got all my kids, all my sons-in-laws, and all, right, everybody. What else would you recommend so that they can catch themselves, not reacting, but hopefully responding, right? Any other tips and insights?
Yeah. So, a really simple thing that I do with a lot of my executives is we sit down and identify basically two versions of how they show up. So, one is you at your best when you're balanced and you're not reacting in fear. What does it look like for you? Because you've got different strengths. You and I are different. And if we had to really identify you at your best, it's going to be a little bit different. But you're more aware, you're more calm, you're probably more in touch with your values, and you're being driven more by those than panic, right? You're clear headed. And then we want to get really clear about what triggered you looks like. So so you know exactly where you tend to go when it's triggered you. So I have a client right now, and we've called that version frustrated. I'm going to change his name to Dan. frustrated Dan, overwhelmed Dan. And it usually gets triggered right when he's feeling the weight of everything on him, and then something else goes wrong and it's pushed him over the edge, and he's into frustrated Dan. And he's immediately defensive. He's short with people. He can feel in his body that he's extremely tense, unhappy, all of that kind of comes in immediately. How does he usually respond to people? And we get really clear about what that looks like so that you recognize it. And it's helped when something happens and he can immediately go, okay, I can do frustrated Dan or I can do balanced Dan. And I know exactly what the two look like and feel like. I know if I'm in frustrated Dan, what the result of this is going to be and who's going to pay and what the outcome is going to look like. And it's never it's never good. But having that really clearly defined is really helpful. And I recommend you sit down with your spouse and have them do the same thing. And let's look at what their frustrated, triggered, irritated, out of balance self looks like and their balanced self, so that you can recognize in each other, okay, I came home and I've got out of balance wife. Now I know exactly what she needs when she's this way, because the Shape website will tell you exactly what she needs. She needs me to listen. She needs me to validate and remind her that she's great and the things she does right. And I know if I do those things and give her a hug, I can get her back into balanced self where we can have a more logical conversation and work through an issue. But to be able to have those clearly defined, that's pretty simple thing, but you'll be amazed at the clarity it gives you about which state you're in. Does that make sense?
Beautifully. Yeah, that was a beautiful exercise. I almost want to go to my wife, Angela, and say, paint the picture of unbalanced Benoy versus balanced so I can see what you see, right? Versus me making
Exactly.
it. Tell me what you see. Whenever I'm unbalanced, what do I normally behave and look like? And I go, oh, yeah, that's horrible. That'll hurt more to trigger me into, okay, I got to keep out of
That
the
hurts.
ugly Benoy, right? Have her tell me, no more ugly Benoys. Okay, got it. Thank you. I will work on that. In this journey, it's continuous improvement. That's all I can do, right? And so we got to keep working at home, at work, and all the employees. I knows this. One of the things I do, Kim, is I also do these 360 reviews to
Yeah.
see how goals are progressing that the CEO has set for the quarter or for the year or whatever. And the very closest professional associates are able to then clearly give feedback as to how that CEO is leading in or exhibiting the behaviors of the skill or the goal or the discipline that they're after. And I just think that that's a great time to also have an equivalent. Hey, when I'm the ugly CEO, how do I show up to you? Right? Wouldn't that be great? How does that, right? So it
Yeah.
allows that feedback. You just gave me another great tool to be able to talk to people and help them. I do have, sorry, go ahead, Kim.
Well, there's one other thing I'd probably want to recommend to them, and it is a little bit into some Buddhist philosophy, which I hope it's
Okay.
okay if I go there. But
Mhm,
most
sure.
of our aggravation, the energy we're wasting being frustrated or scared is about things that we can't change in the moment anyway, right? It is what it is. And we can be in resistance and frustration or overwhelm that it's the way it is if we would like to. But the degree of aggravation that you're going to have about that is up to you. It's at this point self-inflicted. It is what it is. So yeah, the employees might have screwed up and created this mess, and now this is what you have. How miserable would you like to be about it? You've got to start being very accountable for your suffering. How aggravated would you like to be today? Because that's up to you to a large extent. And I like my clients to understand a little bit about resisting what is and choosing to be at peace that it is what it is. And I will take action that I can take. If there's things in my control that I can do about this, I'm going to do them, but I'm not going to waste any energy being frustrated, scared, or aggravated over something that I can't do anything else about.
Yeah.
And we got to be responsible for that. Yeah, I. What's that making you?
Yeah, so this is a great insight. I really love it. Like, thank you for that. But what it reminds me is when I was a first time founder, when I was going through this, and um I confused the um the adrenaline and with the drive. What I mean by that is I used to tell myself I can't be calm. I have to be frustrated. I have to have adrenaline rushing. I have to be um, in a stress environment to solve the problems. Like even in front of my team, I have to exert more energy, more frustration, so that we can actually get to the bottom of this and then solve this problem. Nowadays, it's if there's a problem, I am still very concerned about it. I am putting all my brain power to solve it, but frustrated part of me that I now know is not helping the situation. Clarity in mind is different than being calm. So you used a few words there that remind me, like, um, being calm or not frustrated doesn't mean you're not attacking the problem with the entire all your brain, or accepting it, or just because there's a problem that it's not in your control and okay, I'm gonna give up. That's not how it is. We're not talking about give up or being relaxed about against a challenge, right? Being Having a clear mind that is trying to solve the problem without the frustrations. I didn't have that in the past. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Mhm.
actually, I would say you actually thought if you weren't aggravated, you weren't being responsible for it.
Mm-hmm.
That responsibility, being a responsible leader meant you had to be carrying this weight and feeling pressure about it. And the
Yeah.
two aren't actually, you can be being totally responsible and still be totally calm.
Mm-hmm.
It
Yes.
is.
I think that's a key thing for our audience to understand. We're not asking them to be submissive or like just to forget the issues. Be responsible just in a clear mind, right?
Mhm.
I agree. And I'll give you my example. I used to, when I was younger, always walk around the office as the leader, CEO, with a intense face. I never strolled. I marched because I had to
Mm-hmm.
show I was in command and direction. That it was intense, and there was never a "Hey, how's it going?" kind of a thing. What do you need? What's up? Right? It was like, if you're not intense, you're not caring. If you're not intense, you're not in charge. If you're not feeling that level of energy, you're not doing it right. Completely wrong. But that's how I had figured out what leadership took, which is what I agree with Ike on that. And you nailed it. We had, we thought that that was the way to do it. It was incorrect.
Yeah,
So,
think about it. You're making fear based decisions and not value based decisions, not wisdom, but fear in that state.
um, we always run out of time. There are many lessons. You have so many thousands of hours you can regurgitate back out. There's so many ways that people need to relax and recharge, reduce the speed, slow down. You talked about, hey, the two personas, the ugly Dan, the balanced Dan. And for me, it's 3 seconds. Any last comments, including what you do? Because I think it's fabulous that you're in Mexico right now. What do you recommend people do now that we're at this stage and age to come on? Let's just build a great business, but do it in a certain way. Well, what advice would you give?
Yeah, I don't know, Benoy, if it's as we're getting older, we're getting wiser, that the time is going by. The time is it's going by faster, don't you think? The older you get, it's
Mhm.
and I wish I'd realized that younger, that it's gonna fly. Um, so what you do with your life matters more than just the money that you make and the accolades and the success. You want to form relationships with other human beings that are going to matter to you, because in the end nobody thinks that they wish they'd worked harder. I see also, the more leisure time and the more time I have connecting with the people that are important to me, I actually have more creative energy, so I work smarter. And I don't think you discover that until you start doing it. But actually, coming back from that week in Costa Rica, I bet you come back and you actually work smarter and better. I know I work
Always,
better in Mexico than at home, for sure.
oh,
But having that
always.
balance,
That's
yeah.
wise counsel. Because right now, as a young founder, the last thing I'm going to do is take time off. The last thing I'm going to do is take vacation with the family. Don't they know it's more important that I put bread on the table? The last thing I'm going to do is take care of myself and actually sleep a full 8.5 hours, 9 hours. Ike is going to smile on that one. What? Right? The last thing we're going to do is slow down long enough just to kind of chill. That's that's not how we do it. That's not how they depict it in the movies. So we pick up all of these bad habits. You're a champ. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, Kim. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Right?
Thanks for having
There, yeah, there's so much to talk about, and what you've talked about goes to the nuggets of how fear does overtake us, even if we are balanced in our values. And everyone on this show, please, um, Kimberly Giles, go to 12shapes.com. It's free. Take this test. It'll even give you a personalized report on what shape you are. Do it with your significant other. Do it with your C-level suite. It will change your life. And of the things that we have left in executing and improving, nothing matters more than the people that we're around. It's the business of humans, as Kim says. With that said, Kim, thank you so much. Thank you, Ike. We're going to call it quits until next week, next time. Everyone, take care. Bye bye.